This is the good content. Today, I want to take a look at Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a movie made by the prolific director Quentin Tarantino, and how it creates a new kind of suspense. One that is not necessarily derived from the movie, but from the sense of expectation of the audience going into the movie. Some might say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the least Tarantino movie of all the films made by the director. It divides the audience into people who either loved it or hated it. Personally, I fall into the first category. I believe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a majestic period piece perfectly capturing the essence of the late 60s, and one that, contrary to the popular opinion, completely encapsulates the vision of the director. But one that does this in a completely different way than all his previous movies. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the only film I've ever seen that creates meta-suspense to hook the audience until the very last second. But before we get into that, let's define what we mean by suspense. In theory of suspense, cognitive psychologists Artony, Clore, and Collins define suspense as the mixture of fear, hope, and a cognitive state of uncertainty. Fear is the displeasure about the prospect of an unpleasant event, and hope is the pleasure we get from a happy outcome. And suspense is basically the equilibrium between the two and the uncertainty you have of the outcome results. It's kinda like the Schrödinger's cat. The outcome is the cat in the box, and while you're watching the movie, both outcomes are equally possible. And this lack of knowledge makes you stick around to find the results. In films like Shutter Island or Gone Girl, this concept is constantly teased. It keeps you on the edge of your seat because you're anticipating the result, and yet you're unable to predict it. You can't figure out what's gonna happen, and that annoying feeling of confusion can be desirable and even addicting. Tarantino films are some of the best examples of this suspense. He has a way of masterfully building dialogue, camera movement, small beats in every scene, and the micro expressions of actors to build suspense from the ground up. That's why every scene of the movie grabs the audience and plays with their emotions. This is especially apparent in Django Unchained and in Inglourious Basterds. Tarantino does this by using 4 key elements in his writing and directing: conflict, lack of control, uncertainty, and payoff. Conflict happens by introducing contrasting forces and desires to the story and the scene. Lack of control is by involving elements that are out of the ordinary, that changes the dynamic of the forces. Uncertainty is playing the story close to the chest, where the audience can't see the ending coming from a mile away. And payoff? Well, Tarantino really knows how to do a proper payoff. But this is where the story gets weird. As you see, in all previous films, these elements are obvious in the story and the structure. You know the conflict in Hateful Eight, you're annoyed by the lack of control in Pulp Fiction, and you feel the uncertainty in Inglourious Basterds. But none of these elements are quite easy to find in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The movie is separated into 2 halves that have nothing to do with each other. The first part is witnessing the life of an actor whose glory days are behind him, and is a stunt double / assistant / fixer / buddy just driving across the city. The second half, however, is about a group of hippies organized by a psychopath attempting to kill the neighbor of these guys, but making one stop before they get there. So technically, there shouldn't be any suspense, right? There's no clear conflict up until the last moment. There is no uncertainty, and there's nothing that feels out of control. And yet, there is. Every drive across LA, every scene at the big lonely house, the scene between Cliff and his dog, they're all quite suspenseful. And that's because Tarantino is building suspense on another level. He's using our knowledge of him as the basis for the suspense. The audience knows who they're dealing with. They know this is Tarantino and they know there's gonna be a payoff. So by omitting the normal clues that build up the suspense, he's actually taking the uncertainty principle to a whole new level. In the first part, we even actually come close to this payoff. In the Manson Ranch scene, which is built up very similarly to the famous opening scene of The Inglourious Bastards, we come this close to an actual payoff. But then he takes it away from us. In a research done by Dr. Keith Bound, he played thrilling scenes to some people and looked at how their brains functioned. He was shocked to discover that the most level of excitement was built not by the reveal itself, but by the lack of the reveal. That by hiding the scary element, the mind actually became more thrilled in every scene. And that, in a nutshell, is what Tarantino is doing with this movie. He's using our knowledge of his famous payoffs and delayed gratification to build suspense. He doesn't give us a clue, he doesn't make a clear path, and he doesn't reveal any obvious conflicts, and yet, minute by minute, we become more anxious to see what is going to happen. Tarantino said it himself, that he likes to stretch his suspenseful scenes as much as he can. He uses dialogue, camera movement, small beats, tangents, and the micro-expressions of actors to build his scenes as much as possible, and tease up the audience as far as he can, before getting to the payoff and making the ultimate thrilling experience. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is basically one really stretched out scene. One that builds suspense not by using the typical elements, but by using our expectation of the use of the typical elements. And by doing that, Tarantino makes his ultimate payoff. By using that, he creates meta-suspense out of nothing. Thank you so much for watching our video. Please like if you liked and let us know what you think in the comments below. Did you like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, or do you fall in the second category? And do you think it counts as a suspenseful film or not? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you want to see more good content, go to our channel. We're still new, but every week we try to explore good storytelling and how it impacts our lives from the point of view of movies, TV shows, games, or anything with a story. You can even subscribe and hit that bell button to get updated on our future episodes. See you again next week, and goodbye.